So we have some new debuts to speak about, plus we had some very fun matches. Also, Dark Order seems to be going towards a clash with FTR, the Elite, and everybody else, it seems, at this point. Plus, we still have some tension between FTR, Hangman Page, and Kenny Omega, so we're going to have to see where that goes. What's up, everybody? Eric here from That's Wrestling. Thanks for tuning in to today's AEW Dynamite post-show from July 29th, 2020. If you're listening to this as a podcast, please head over to the YouTube channel because we do this show live. AEW is usually at 7 p.m. Eastern on Thursdays. New Japan is all over the place, but if you hit the bell notification, it lets you know as soon as I schedule a live stream, so you know when it's going to be. Plus, if one has to get moved, you get notified. Plus, I also do videos throughout the week, just short ones to cover any news that pops up about New Japan and AEW that I find important that people should know. I also talk about like being the elite and stuff like that. Head over to iTunes and give us a review. It helps a lot, and we will read them out if you happen to drop them. Plus, we have a Discord. The link is in the description. And if you have questions, comments, feedback, if you disagree with us on something or something you want us to talk about as a discussion topic, send them to eric@thatswrestling.com, and we can have a mailbag segment and all that fun stuff. Plus, I am looking for other people to help cover New Japan as well. So far, it's been all right covering it with Josh, but he is going back to university soon, so time will be limited on his end. So if you're interested in doing some New Japan co-hosting as well, send an email to eric@thatswrestling.com. And tonight, I don't have Dustin. I am not saying his name wrong. I have Justin with me tonight. How's it going, man?
What's up? I was thinking about that earlier. I was like, I hope they don't think that you're just like mispronouncing his name the entire time.
Nope. So give us just a quick intro to you, and then we can get rolling here.
So I am your average 30-something person. I've been following wrestling since my brother introduced me to WrestleMania 2, which is just such a weird show to get in on. If I would never show that to anyone. Love AEW, though. I'm so excited for what AEW's been doing. So let's see, I've been following wrestling for 25 years now. God, it's so weird when you put it into like context like that, how long of my life has been devoted to this sport.
Seriously, I know I'm at like 32 years or something. It's insane.
Like, think of what we could be good at if we spend as much time as we watch wrestling on like basketball or anything else in the world. We could be like on the NBA, but nope, we can tell you every WrestleMania main event off the top of our head, though.
Yeah, I spent most of my high school years collecting tapes, and I amassed a tape collection of every single Raw up until the point I was at. It was insane, and now it's like, oh, I could just get it on the network if I wanted. So I spent all that time. If I knew ahead of time that I could get them later, I wouldn't have spent all that time.
Imagine telling our like teenage self, stop buying all these VHS and DVDs. You're literally going to have everything in your hand for $9.99 here in 15 years.
Yep. All right, so let's get into it. Just starting off, there was a little bit of a change. We had Taz on commentary, no Excalibur, along with Tony and JR. So this is a bit of a change. I didn't even know about this until later on in the day yesterday, that there is a video that had been dug up and has been circulating around. This was Excalibur using some racial slurs during a promo back in like 2003, 2005, somewhere in that range. So 15 to 17 years ago. I'm not sure if that had anything to do with it. According to Meltzer, he did travel to Florida for the show. So I'm not sure if they just pulled him to figure out the best way to deal with it or not. But at this point, it seems like a very strange thing to yank somebody off of when it was clearly kayfabe. Also, Meltzer was reporting that his opponent that he was cutting the promo on was the one who insisted on using the language.
I feel them not saying anything about it makes it even worse. Like, if you just said, hey, we're reviewing stuff, we'll read, kind of like what they did with Sammy. Like, we're going to review this, we understand what's going on, but just not saying anything brings so much more like attention to it.
Yeah,
And again,
it,
like you said, it's kayfabe.
it feels strange because one, Sammy's was not kayfabe, whereas Excalibur's was. Plus, Excalibur's was 13 years ago. He's apologized for it on multiple occasions. Like even right after it happened, I believe he voiced somewhere that it was a bad idea. He talked about it on Talk Is Jericho when he was on Jericho's show. I don't know, like a year ago at this point. So it seems weird that this would just circle back around again.
I think it's one of the worst times right now for it to come back, and I'm okay with them taking him off if they need some time to review, what they want to do. But I don't think you should just. Well, I don't think he should be fired for it.
No,
I think he should. Like you said, he apologized. It's not like he was saying this in a Kramer way. When I don't know if you remember that comedian Kramer from Seinfeld.
Exactly. Yeah,
he was using it, like you said, in a kayfabe way. The opponent he was saying it against, I didn't hear this, but I'm gonna trust you 100%. Wanted him to use it. It's a good way of getting cheap heat if everyone's okay with it.
Right.
So I mean, not the greatest thing to say, and in hindsight, I bet he wouldn't say it again. But I don't think there should be any ramifications. Really,
right. And actually, Kevin Steen actually said it in that video as well. Kevin Owens. So. Are we going to cancel Kevin Owens too? But he has also said the same thing. He's apologized for it many times going back. So again, and of course this was kayfabe as well. So I don't know. It seems I view. I guess that not everybody views it this way, but I view wrestling as live theater. We don't crucify actors for what they say on stage when they're acting in a play or in a movie. We would have like no actors left because they'd all be canceled at this point.
Well, yeah, like I said, if it was agreed upon beforehand, if it wasn't just like a spur of the moment, I'm going to try and, get a reaction. If this should be considered anything bigger than, hey, this was what you said, 2003. So we're coming on almost 20 years ago at this point.
Right.
So yeah, no, just 1 week's fine. Let this all blow down. But I didn't know KO was a part of that too. That's going to be interesting to see if the E does anything about that.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into it. This show started off with the massive 10-man tag Inner Circle versus Best Friends, Orange Cassidy, Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus, with Marco Stunt as well at ringside. Of course, he will get involved, but it's basically an 11-man match here. Jericho teases that he's going to start off with Orange Cassidy, but he tags right out to Jake Hager. OC ends up frustrating Hager a little bit, and then Jericho tags himself in, and then we get the already right off the bat cluster that this match ends up turning into a bit, where we have all 10 guys in the ring at the same time, just going crazy. We have a ton of dives. Luchasaurus and Jake Hager have a bit of a hoss fight at one point. They also toss Marco Stunt back and forth, and then Luchasaurus does a dive onto the crowd with Marco on his back, which was pretty funny. We have a best friends and friends hug, so we have in the middle, and then Sammy jumps in, but they all move out of the way, and he's like completely surrounded, and he's like, oh crap, I'm totally screwed. And he gets beaten down. Trent eventually gets isolated on the outside and is DDT and suplexed on the floor, and then they get the heat on Trent for a very, very long time through a commercial break, I believe. And then Luchasaurus and Hager have a bit of a hoss fight here, and then we have which I have not seen happen in AEW for quite a while. We have everybody runs in one at a time, alternating teams, hitting a major spot, and then another one comes in, hits the spot on them, and then another one comes in, hits a spot on them. We see it in New Japan all the time, but I don't think I've actually seen it too much in AEW, so I will give that
at least not to that
up.
extent, though.
No. Well, yeah, this is a 5-on-5, so it kind of stood out a lot heavier than normal. Luchasaurus is the last man standing after the end of that, and Jericho tries to come in with the bat named Floyd, and Orange Cassidy pulls him out of the ring and runs him into the barricade, I believe, and then Sammy reverses out of a choke slam, hits a Shining Wizard on Luchasaurus. He goes up top to do something, but Matt Hardy's music hits. Everybody turns to look at the stage, including the ref, and Hardy jumps up onto the ring apron from behind Sammy, pushes down Sammy, and then Luchasaurus finishes him off for the win. So it looks like they are picking up again on the Sammy versus Matt Hardy storyline that they basically started at the Stadium Stampede.
Which I'm really excited about that. I was sad to see that dropped. It looked like they were planting seeds for maybe an eventual Sammy Jericho match if Sammy turns face, which I was so excited for. I like the idea that Matt's almost like the good angel on his shoulder and Jericho's the bad angel, like conflicting, trying to get Sammy to change sides.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious. I think Sammy's going to do better as a face for a little while. I think coming back, we were all excited to see him back, but it was so nice to see Matt Hardy come back. I'm excited to see him. I think he adds just something different that you don't get from the technical people. Like this was a fine match. I don't think there's anything wrong with this. Trent took a beating like nobody's business. I have not seen anybody take a beating like and sell it like him in a while. He reminds me a lot of Bret Hart in that way.
Yeah, he, I think normally for the best friends matches, he ends up taking the heat for the most part. Chucky T does once in a while, but usually it's Trent who's going to be beaten up on for quite some time. I'm not sure if it's just he has a little less wear and tear on the body and he can take it, or that's just how they decide to go with the team that they have.
Also, one thing I thought was a little weird. Luchasaurus's mask was having a little bit of an issue towards the late end of this match. I don't know what was going on with that. I'd never seen him ever have mask issues before.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, last week he had his earlobe basically like torn. They didn't mention anything about that, and they didn't show anything about that. So I don't know if there was a mask problem then as well. Maybe the strap came up and got caught on his ear or something. So yeah, I've never seen him really have any problems with the mask either.
JR made a funny point. Hey, I recognize that guy. And then Tad's like, yeah, he's a dinosaur. I love just like the idea that we're just going to go with the fact that he's a million-year-old dinosaur. I'm fine. I'm all in on that one.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. They also, I believe JR also called Marco Stunt a male chihuahua because he was celebrating after he was the last man standing and everybody else is down.
The commentary of this, I know you mentioned it in the beginning, but like, I don't know why this three-man team of Shivani, Taz, and JR, this may be my favorite three-man team of all time. They all bring something different and unique to this, especially as Taz is a manager now. With a tag team match at the end we'll talk about later, but like, his dynamic of being a manager now when he's commentating was so much nicer.
Yeah, he had some fun one-liners throughout the show. Actually, really all three of the guys who are on commentary these days are all one-liner guys. Like, because JR mostly has been taking a backseat on the play-by-play, and Excalibur has been doing that. So even here, he still wasn't as much on the play-by-play, and he still threw in the one-liners. So like, we have three guys that are just all one-liner guys. So it was pretty fun.
And then Shivani's just fantastic. He's milking this return for all it's worth, and I'm completely okay with that.
I know. And all he does is just agree with people the whole time.
Yeah, and that's perfect. That's all you need to do, Shivani. Like, you're perfect in your role right now. Don't change at all.
Yeah. Next up, we have a quick Moxley promo. It's a backstage pre-tape, and he says he tries to stay out of people's business. If people stay out of his business, he stays out of theirs. And he says that he thought that the issues between him and Brian Cage were over, but then he went up and beat up his little compadre, Darby Allin, so he gets pulled back in. And then he also mentions that Ricky Starks, you've fallen in with the wrong crowd. And then he asks, how's it going to feel when the numbers are even, and that he doesn't start fights, but he always finishes them. Solid promo again from Moxley. Moxley's promos ever since coming to AEW have been solid. Like, he can cut them off the cuff. They're all under a minute, and he gets in exactly what needs to be said. Nothing more, nothing less. He doesn't drag on. What I've just been saying dragged on longer than his promo did.
Yeah, I think the description of talking about this is going to last longer than he did. But you're right, he is good at these bullet points, and the way he like puts the exclamation points on them, you believe everything he's saying. That's my favorite part of any Moxley promos. You believe that he believes it, and him and MJF are two of the best at that.
Definitely. Next up, we move into Cody has a open challenge from Warhorse for the TNT Championship. I have never seen Warhorse wrestle before. I've never seen really anything of him other than what he looks like and his name. Apparently, he weighs in at 4,000 pounds of heavy metal and is here to rule ass. Not sure what that's supposed to mean. Apparently, it's an inside joke that I do not know.
Yeah, no, I thought that was a little flub, but apparently it's not. Apparently it's what he was supposed to say.
Yeah, because Warhorse yelled into the camera that same thing, and then Justin Roberts repeated it. So no, it definitely was the correct thing. We have Cody is in this fight a bit cocky. This goes back to 2 weeks ago. He had kind of the same thing going with who did he fight 2 weeks ago before Eddie?
It was the one who's with what's
why am I spacing this?
I haven't seen him on they're doing the Joey Janela and him are working together right now, and I can't
Sunny
remember.
Kiss.
There we go. Thank
All right,
you.
so yeah, because he was very cocky during that one as well, and then he at one point turns his back when he disengages from a corner rope break, and then we have some back and forth throughout the commercial. Cody hits a suplex and does some push-ups. Arn Anderson is none too happy about this. I think this was during the commercial. And then I watch it on Fight, so I always forget if I'm in commercial or not. And they mention on commentary after they come back from commercial. So yes, that was. And so they actually mentioned that Cody did the suplex and push-ups, and Arn Anderson was not happy about it. So calling it after the commercial comes back, I'm guessing that is an important story point, because now this is like the second, third match that he's had kind of these tendencies to show off and be really cocky about it, and Arn Anderson is none too happy about it. So coming up later, we'll do a bit of callback to Arn here. Cody works over the knee for a bit. He puts on a half crab and then the figure four. Cody gets dropped by some strikes and then gets stomped on. Warhorse actually goes up top, but Cody rolls out of the ring and he's kind of like slumped over a little bit, kind of catching his breath on the floor when Warhorse gets down onto the apron and then does a double stomp to Cody's back. Warhorse rolls Cody back into the ring, hits a Macho Man elbow for a 2 count. They exchange some roll-up attempts. Warhorse jams his knee on a missed double stomp off the top, and that is when Cody puts on the figure four for the submission. I thought this match was okay. The gimmick of Warhorse seems very indie-rific.
Yeah, I just like you, I'd never seen Warhorse before. He was very much hyped up online. Like everywhere I was going, everybody was very excited for him. I don't know if it was higher expectations, but it was a fine match. There was nothing wrong with it. Cody's very good at working with anyone. He's very good at changing his style to adapt to whoever he's fighting. And Warhorse had good moves. He was very crisp. I like the first double stomp. And you were mentioning that Macho elbow drop was really nice, but just, I don't know, he wasn't what I was expecting. I would like to see more of him though. Maybe drop the gimmick or maybe make it a little less, kind of like you said, indie-rific. But I'm definitely up to see more of him in AEW.
Yeah, I think just some of his mannerisms, kind of like, I don't know if this is going to work type of deal. And it would have been nice if they had a short pre-tape before the match like they have with some other competitors just coming in. Obviously, last week, Eddie Kingston cut a killer promo before the match, which really helped get you into the caring about each of these guys in the match right away. I believe Ricky Starks, when he came in, same thing. They had a video promo of him, 45 seconds or so, just talking about everything and coming in. Diamante had a video promo ahead of her match later on in the show. So I think it would have behoove them to have Warhorse have at least a little bit so we can know what the heck we're in for and what he's all about, and have some sort of credo before we see him in the ring.
Yeah, when Starks debuted, I had no idea who he was. Like, they mentioned NWA, which I unfortunately don't watch, but I had no idea who he was, and that little pre-package before helped a lot. I also think for Warhorse, what happened after the match may have overshadowed him a little bit. Yeah. Because obviously he's not what you were like. When I think of that match, he's not what I'm going to remember. The match wasn't good enough for me to be like, oh yeah, the Warhorse match. It's what happened once the Dark Order came in.
Right. So after the match, the Dark Order comes out and they beat up Warhorse and Cody, and then out comes Matt Cardona, previously known as Zack Ryder, and he takes out the couple Dark Order guys that came in. So if it was Matt Cardona who is a surprise competitor against Cody, it would have made sense not to do a video package because he's way higher in profile than Warhorse. But here we have him. I did not expect him to come in this way, so it was at least a surprise, and I didn't know he was coming in this early too. So we now have Matt Cardona on the side of Cody because they hugged afterwards because they're like best friends in real life anyways. So what do you think about them bringing in Matt Cardona into AEW?
I like it. Shivani made the Strong Island reference for him, which made me chuckle pretty loudly.
Yeah.
I like Zack Ryder. I have Matt Cardona now. I'm curious to see what he can do if the company's actually pushing him, because he got over a few times actually without WWE really pushing him. The Long Island IC, I love that YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. I watched it every week, and then him and what was his tag? Kurt Hawkins did their little, and they might still have it, their action figure channel.
Yeah, they still have they still do their podcast.
And I don't care too much about action figures. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just I don't have time to collect them. But they're entertaining just to listen to them talk. Their passion about wrestling has always exceeded whatever they're doing. So I'm curious. And one, he looks buff. I don't know what it is about.
Oh my God, Zack Ryder,
so jacked.
Zack Ryder and Heath look buff as hell when they have come back. Did you see Heath?
I did, and then Jinder Mahal and Drew McIntyre, when they came back, they look I don't know what it is about those 90 days that you're off in between when you can debut, but there's some supplement in the world these guys are taking, and they just look so jacked, and he looks great. I'm all in on Matt Cardona. I will back him completely. I think if he has a company that cares about him and pushing him, I would be curious to see what non-goofy thing he could do. I don't want the Long Island character again. I don't want someone goofy. I want him to be, just passionate about what he does. And
yeah,
I'm sure we'll talk about this later, but I'm very curious of why the Dark Order is targeting who they are.
Yeah. Exactly.
They're not focusing on one specific, not even one entity. They're spreading out who they're targeting, and there has to be a reason for it, but I'm not exactly sure what that is yet. And I like that personally. Yeah,
definitely. So with them bringing in Matt Cardona was one of the guys of the releases that I said that AEW probably should bring in. One, he's only 35 still, so he's still got plenty of time. He wasn't used a ton in WWE, so he probably isn't nearly as beat up as other guys who are 35 who have been in WWE for a very long time. The other one being Miro Rusev. Of course, he's the other guy I would like to bring in. So those are the two guys from the releases I was expecting them to bring. I am surprised that Heath went over to Impact, and the Good Brothers, of course, went over to Impact. That I was surprised about as well, but not so surprised about Matt Cardona coming to AEW. But should be good. I think he has more potential than how Sean Spears has currently ended up. Not that Sean Spears, Sean Spears is doing fine, I think. I think for the most part, he's happy there because they use him more as a coach than anything else. So, I mean, they're paying him for his experience and helping out the younger talent. And he's happy in that role from what I've heard from when he's been on podcasts and whatnot. But Matt coming in, I think he's going to be a little bit more of a bigger player, hopefully. And yes, I hope he goes more of the badass route.
Sean Spears, I didn't know he actually has a wrestling school, Flatback.
Who does?
I thought that was pretty interesting. Sean Spears, him, yes. And Tyler Breeze.
Yep.
I didn't know they had their own wrestling school. Mm-hmm. But I'm hoping there's rumors of that Four Horsemen, and because he's with Tully, I'm hoping that he'll have something to do with the new Four Horsemen group they make, if they do, if that's not just a complete rumor.
Yeah. Then we have, coming out of commercial, we have Tony Schiavone is up on the stage. He starts announcing All Out coming up in September, and the Inner Circle comes out to interrupt, and Jericho says he's furious about what's been going on with the Inner Circle. They need to draw some lines in the sand. And then Sammy calls out Matt Hardy, and he calls him a son of a bitch twice in the single sentence, which I thought was funny wording. Jericho continues on that Orange Cassidy has been causing issues, and he says they're going to have a rematch of one of the best wrestling matches ever in AEW on August 12th, but next week they're going to have a debate with a special guest moderator, so this should be interesting. And then afterwards, Jericho asks Santana if he smells like orange juice still. Santana sniffs him and says it's kind of more like cat pee. And then Jericho screams, and then they're all leaving, but Ortiz is standing there just staring at Tony. And then, like, out of nowhere, he just yells, like cat pee, Tony! And then he leaves.
I love everything about the Inner Circle, but I'm interested in, and I don't think this was just a throwaway line, he said whoever the surprise moderator would blow people's mind.
Yep.
I'm really curious who they're going to get. It might just be like a one-off C-grade celebrity, but where there's so many people that they could pick, I'm completely down for this, you know, little the rematch will be exciting, but I'm down for them just being on the mic. I want to see what Orange Cassidy brings to this. I think that's going to be the best thing.
Yeah, at this point, Orange Cassidy, we need to learn more from him. If you watch all of the shoulder content from AEW, you have more insight into Orange Cassidy. I mean, he had like 2 to 3 minutes of sit down for the lead up to the Jericho match that Monday on the YouTube channel, but they didn't put any of that on Dynamite, so that's kind of a miss right there. I think they've missed a few spots where it's like they put these awesome promos out on the road to blah blah blah, and they don't put the best of those segments on Dynamite, which is just annoying.
Between being the elite, I feel if you're not really paying attention, you'll miss a lot of good things and a lot of like foreshadowing. And I think you can enjoy it without those. I think if you just watch Dynamite, you could enjoy Orange Cassidy. You could get what the elite is, but a few being the elites ago, you know, and I know you watch that. Hangman talks about, you know, I love you guys, but I don't like you.
Right.
And it was such a like poignant moment, and stuff like that I feel they should show on Dynamite, because that was just such a beautifully done shot, and I feel you're missing out if you're not seeing those kind of things.
Yeah, definitely. It's like, and a lot of times we're like looking at the match card, we're like, well, they could cut like 2 minutes off of this match because it went long. They could cut this match completely because it was unnecessary. It's like, okay, there's the time freed up to fill in the rest of this stuff. And as long as it's compelling television, it doesn't matter if it's a wrestling match or not. People aren't going to switch off as long as it's compelling. And that backstage with Hangman and the Elite, and that was compelling television. And I don't think people would have changed the channel if that was in the show.
Oh, 100%. I think Hangman, anything that you do with Hangman right now, I think he's probably one of the more popular people in AEW.
He's also a very good actor, it seems, too.
He really is. I like everything about Hangman right now.
Then we move on, and we are sent back either earlier in the day or earlier in the week, and they're in a conference room, and it's FTR is finally signing their contract with AEW. I'm guessing they actually were under contract weeks ago, but this was playing into the storyline. They, on Twitter, I believe one of them asked why weren't they ranked, and Tony Khan replied, well, you guys aren't under contract with us, so you can't be ranked if you're not under contract. So this comes up. We got FTR signing their contract. They have a attorney in with them to make sure they're all protected, and they are like, we're just gonna wait a minute, we're waiting for our tag team consultant to join us. And in walks Arn Anderson. Arn Anderson sits down and says, what's up, best tag team in the world, and it's mentioned that it's written into the contract that the 10-second rule will be strictly enforced on their matches. There will be tag ropes as well, because for whatever reason the tag ropes have been missing the past few weeks. Apparently over on Dark, which I kind of zipped through and just kept the matches I want to see, they mentioned that the tag rope rule was taken away and it's within arm's length of the turnbuckle is the rule now. So there's that, I guess. There's going to have August 12th is going to be Tag Team Appreciation Night hosted by FTR. And then after they sign, in walks Hangman Page. He has a bottle of whiskey in hand, a few old-fashioned glasses as well. And he, pours a little bit for him. He pours a little bit for the FTR guys, plus Arn Anderson. Arn's like, not now, and he pours it into Cash's glass, I believe it was, and Hangman completely fills his glass.
That was such a nice touch that I thought.
Yeah, it was great. He picks it up and he starts drinking it, and then he stops. He's like, I think I poured too much. And then the FTR guys down theirs, and like this cheap whiskey burns the nostrils, and then Hangman goes back to drinking his glass when they cut away. I thought it was hilarious. Just the delivery of how he says, I think I poured too much.
That almost seemed like something he may not have meant to do. Like, obviously he meant to pour that, but like watching him drink, there was a moment I'm like, oh, he realized he made a mistake right there. Like, he was trying to like down it. I don't know if it was to look cool, but he definitely noticed halfway through that I cannot down this entire thing of, obviously not Jack, whatever kind of whiskey that was. But
I'm hoping
pouring his out was fun.
I'm hoping he switched it out with something that was not actually whiskey.
I don't know. I'd be surprised.
Yeah.
So them being signed, that's a nice touch. The tag ropes being around for their matches also, I think, is a nice touch. I like those old school things. I like tag ropes. I like the 10-second count. By the way, August 12th looks to be an amazing episode, because how many tag teams do they have that we haven't seen in a while?
They have so many tag teams. I saw somebody had a list, and they have like 17 tag teams on the roster.
Yeah. I'm really hoping we'll see Lucha Brothers. We haven't seen them in a few weeks, and they were competing for the tag team titles, not too long ago. Butcher and Blade, I'd like to see. I know we just saw them last week. They got beat up in that false count anywhere, but I'd like to see them. I just want to see like everybody. They have so many teams that I just would love to see fight each other that aren't like pay-per-view quality matches. But I would like to see FTR versus Lucha. I don't know if that'll ever be a pay-per-view quality like story, but that's gonna be a really good match inside the ropes.
Didn't they just have that?
Did they? Did I miss that match completely?
Oh, it wasn't team. It was Lucha Bros plus Butcher and Blade against FTR and.
Yeah. No, I just want to see just the FTR versus Lucha. But yeah, you're right. They did do that 8-man. That was really good.
So here is one of those things with Arn Anderson here. Coming in, this is my callback to earlier we're talking about Cody. With Arn Anderson representing FTR, is there going to be a conflict and somebody is going to be turning and somebody is then going to get kicked to the curb? Because I think it would make the most sense that Cody pisses off Arn enough that Arn ditches him. So Cody can go off on his own, because Cody never needed somebody with him anyways, because he was cutting some of the best promos of the year. So there was no reason to have Arn Anderson at his side to begin with. So it would make sense if Cody got spun off and he was just solo at this point, or, he can still, have a relationship with Dustin and Brandy and QT Marshall and stuff. But and he gets spun out of the Elite because he's never really fit into the Elite, even going back to New Japan when he joined Bullet Club. That was just he always felt like the odd man out. So I think him going lone wolf would make a lot more sense. We pull in Hangman eventually, so we have FTR, Hangman, and then do we have that is when Tully and Arn join forces and pull in Sean Spears, so we have that faction there? Or does Arn pick up a fourth?
So FTR is eventually going to turn on the Bucks. We know this. Like, that's not going to last forever. So do Cody stay with the Bucks? And it's like Cody, the Bucks, Omega versus FTR, Hangman, whoever the fourth person is. That's where I think they're going to go. I think Arn is going to turn on Cody because Cody's just he's way too charismatic right now to be heel. I think that FTR and Hangman, you're right, they're going to get a fourth person. I don't know if I want to be Shawn Spears. I love Shawn Spears. I think he's great in the ring, but I don't know. I think there's a better fourth person for that.
Well, you could have Matt Cardona turn really quickly here on Cody.
That would be good. Then Cody just has like that whole like Sting, Samoa Joe, old school TNA babyface. Like, you're just dumb. How many of your friends are going to be turning on you before you realize to stop having friends? Like, first you have MJF, and Shawn Spears turns on you. MJF turns on you. If Matt Cardona turns on him, it's going to be so hard to believe you have any friends. Like, people don't like you if you have 3 of your best friends turning on you within a year. But no, that'd be great. I would love to see Matt Cardona be in such a high role. He would go well with those guys. He'd be a little bit more of the experienced guy. He'd probably definitely the oldest person out of the 4, right?
Yes.
Out of FTR and Hangman?
Yeah, because Hangman just turned 29 last week, and I'm not sure how old the guys in FTR are. I think they're young 30s.
I feel like I've been doing nothing with my life when I watch these guys now. I'm like, oh, he's 29?
Right?
When I was 29, I wasn't doing anything like this.
Yeah,
but so I don't think Cody's going to be turned heel. I think just because FTR is so intertwined with the Young Bucks that if Arn does go for them, they're going to be the ones who turn. And Cody, I hope Cody turns. I liked his match in New Japan with Omega. Mm-hmm. I would really like to see them 2 fight again in AEW, but I don't think we have that coming for a while. And we'll talk about this here in another match. I think it's going to be Omega who turns, though, personally.
That would be or the entire Elite turning has been something I've floated as a possibility as well.
Oh, I like that idea.
And I just looked. Actually, Dax Harwood is 36, so he is older than Matt Cardona is.
Wow. I guess it makes sense because he looks really good for a 36.
Yeah. All right. So we are moving on here, and we have what I thought was the match of the night. We have Evil Uno and Stu Grayson versus Kenny Omega and Hangman Page for the AEW Tag Championship. Brodie Lee comes out as well with Grayson and Uno, as well as Colt Cabana and Anna Jay. Good to see Anna Jay out of quarantine since she is one of QT Marshall's students. A lot of QT Marshall's people have been kept away from AEW because they were all, exposed, but she quarantined off. It looks like she's okay at this point. Unfortunately, QT Marshall did have COVID. I don't know his current status, if he's really sick anymore or anything like that. And they head over to the commentary desk. Colt Cabana goes on to commentary. Throughout the match, he's saying, hey, look, Brodie Lee got me a commentary gig for a match, which was kind of funny. Basically, the whole story here that plays throughout the commentary a lot, Colt Cabana, basically the things that he says makes it very clear that Brodie Lee has kind of pulled the wool over his eyes and doesn't expose Colt Cabana to a lot of things that happen under the Dark Order's watch. So he's kind of isolated from some of the other unsavory acts that they do. This comes into play at the end of the match as well. Hangman Page comes out. His lower third says didn't like the white wrist tape because last week it was trying out white wrist tape for the first time, or seeing how it works out, something like that. Hangman attacks before Kenny even makes it out of the entrance tunnel, and Kenny doesn't even notice what's going on. He poses up on the stage, and then when he drops his head back down, he's like, what the hell is going on? He's like, oh, damn it. So he just unbuckles his title belt and jumps into the ring, and they basically have a bit of a pull apart here. And while Omega and Hangman are talking in the corner, the bell gets rung. Hey, ref, you're supposed to check on the competitors to make sure they're ready to start the match. Anyways, Uno attacks Omega from behind while his back is turned while he's talking to Omega. Eventually, Omega and Page hit a lot of good double team work. So this is where it's always the are they or aren't they? Are they or aren't they? They do the double team here. Hangman is the one, he puts up his hands for a double high five. Kenny obliges. They're both smiling. It's like, okay, now they're like on perfectly great terms right here.
Right.
So this story has been complete roller coaster going back to like November when Hangman was starting this whole new thing anyways. We have Omega getting a hot tag at one point. He hits the You Can't Escape on Greyson, but Uno gets a tag really quickly, and Hangman also gets a blind tag, and they hit some good double team moves. Hangman and Omega rotate tags a couple times. We also have Dark Order here taking out Hangman Page on the outside when Greyson is Irish whipped towards the corner from Kenny Omega, but he just does the dive over the corner post, and the shot that they use the camera that is set up on the post, and Omega is just like staring in bewilderment, like he can't even believe what he just saw. They didn't catch the rest of the dive or him landing on Hangman, so I think that made it even more impactful because they just had that corner camera that he just dives, and then he just flies out of the frame over the camera. It was awesome. They also then hit a bunch of big moves. That is Uno and Greyson, a bunch of 2 counts, and there were a couple ones here. They had me with a couple of close 2 counts because they hit some huge double team moves. But then Hangman gets back into it. They gain some momentum, and then Omega and Hangman hit the last call for the 3 count. I thought this match was the best match of the evening.
Oh, I would say it's even one of the best matches the Dark Order's had just in general. You're right about the, I think it was a 450 cannonball that they did. I was positive we were going to have new champs. Right, and when they were counting, I was like, I can't believe they're changing the titles. And then they kicked out. I love that they can still do believable 2 counts, because I feel like sometimes they do them too much. I feel like in some time matches, I was like, okay, let's stop with the 2 counts. That one got me, though. That one literally was an edge of my seat. I can't believe he kicked out of that.
Yeah, going into the match, I'm like, no way Dark Order is winning. But then getting near the end of the match, I'm like, are they going to change the titles to Dark Order? Right, especially because of Hangman being so buddy-buddy already with FTR during that contract signing. I'm like, oh, they got to pull the trigger at this point, don't they?
Oh, yeah, no, 100%. We're definitely getting FTR as the champions. The only thing about this match that and it's not a complaint on anything, this is a match that I miss the live audience for. Mm-hmm. The reactions that this match would have gotten with a live audience, and they do their best. This is no one's fault that we're going through this. I don't think they should be in front of a live crowd, but there's something about the oohs and ahs that I'm just missing, and this match was one of them that, especially for the end, the last call is just such a cool move when you hear the crowd, and this one was missing it. And Colt, go ahead.
That dive over the corner, the crowd would have gone nuts for that.
Oh yeah, and just in general, Omega and Hangman's matches always have a really good crowd reaction. Right. They'll react to almost anything they do, and there was no shortage of stuff in this match for people to react to. If I'm audibly reacting sitting in a computer chair in my office, I know that the fans would just be going crazy. And I think this is the first match in a while I'm like, I really miss a live crowd.
Then after the match, we have Brodie Lee tells Cabana that he needs to go to the back right now. And it's like, okay, so here we go. So he sends Colt and Anna Jay away. He yells at Uno and Greyson up on the stage. He hits Evil Uno with a stack of papers, which is a BTE inside joke. First time I think we've seen it happen on Dynamite here. And then Hangman starts laughing at this because it has been the funniest thing on BTE as well. And Brodie Lee has the microphone. He says, "Hey man, you think that's funny? I see you with your little group of friends today. We have the Young Bucks. They come down from out of the stands, which we actually saw a couple times throughout the match that they were watching." He says, "Hey, Kenny, I appreciate you joining us this week." And then Brodie says, "You've pissed me off for the last time." And then we have a ton of creepers joining. and not the normal guys that we see from the Dark Order, but some additional guys. They start attacking. FTR run out from the tunnel, attack Brodie Lee and Uno and Greyson up on the stage, and they help clear out all the Dark Order guys. So in the end, in the ring, we have all on solid terms, it seems. FTR, the Bucks, and Hangman and Omega all standing tall in the end. It doesn't seem like there's any friction between them, at least during this moment in time.
Two callbacks to last week that I really enjoyed was one, Colt being sent to the back. You kind of mentioned that at the beginning, especially during commentary. I like that he's, like, as you said, the sheltered one. Like, he's not seeing, what's actually happening. That, like, Brodie Lee is keeping him definitely in the dark, and I like where that has the potential to go. And then the ice chest. I hope every week FTR just comes out with an ice chest and hits someone with it. I don't know why, but it exploding and the ice and the beer going everywhere is... Last week I loved it, and this week I love when they did it again.
Yep. Especially with the Colt Cabana storyline. This is definitely one of... Now the Dark Order has definitely kind of found its place. Obviously, it was a lot of hit or miss really early, mostly miss early on. And now it seems to be gaining some sort of momentum. We see some sort of coalescence here of all these personalities coming in. Really, those segments over on BTE help a lot. I wish a couple of those segments were on Dynamite. They'd have to do a lot of bleeping of language, but it would be totally worth it, especially the Griff Garrison reveal as not being Jungle Boy. BTE,
that was great.
That was so good. I watched it like 6 times because I was just laughing so hard. But this Colt Cabana having the wool pulled over his eyes. Here we have him sent to the back. In the matches that he's had with Brodie Lee, if any interference has happened from the Dark Order guys, it's behind Colt Cabana's back. So Colt Cabana is like none the wiser that people have been cheating on his behalf, but he never saw it happen, so he doesn't know about it. So very interesting, and it's good that they are finally, have some sort of hooks into a larger star and not just bringing in complete nobodies right off the bat. And this was something that had to happen. The Dark Order had to recruit somebody big and actually successfully recruit somebody. And even if they don't successfully recruit Colt, at least currently in the storyline, they're having some success with it.
And there has to be a rhyme to reason of why they're attacking the Elite. Like 2 separate segments in the show, they attack Cody and they attack Omega and Paige. Like there has to be some reason why they're going after these people. As far as I know, they really never attacked Cody before this week. I don't remember any real interaction between them at all. And last week obviously they went after Paige. I'm wondering what the end goal for them is, because you have FTR, you have Young Bucks, and you have Omega and Paige. Obviously that's going to be a tag team match eventually. They're going to settle their differences. What does Dark Order have to do with this?
Yeah.
Like what is their end game? Is it that they're going to get a cleaner? I don't know why. I had a feeling that, if there's one person from this that would go to the Dark Order, it'd be Kenny Omega. I think he's the one whose personality fits best. But I don't know. I don't see where this ends for them, unless it's just getting them like to a big Mega Man, like a big, big man match, just to get them until FTR gets a 4 Horsemen thing, or what's going on. But I'm so excited about how many intertwined storylines there are just from this one segment that I can't wait for next week and the week after just to see what they're going to do.
Yeah, that's what I think made I'll get on it now. Why the show worked. While there was some wrestling that wasn't great, there were so many storylines that were moved forward throughout the show. It was crazy. Just how many they moved forward. I think we're looking at least 8 to 10 storylines that they pushed forward throughout this show. So it's not like they are wasting time or doing anything like that. Even if the wrestling wasn't great in spots, they're still pushing the storyline after every match.
Yeah, there's no filler in this for them. I don't think I saw any real filler. Like the women's match may have been maybe a little bit, but other than that, like everything that happened in this show, there was a reason for it. There's a reason for what happened. There's what's going to happen next you're interested in. And for the most part, Dynamite's usually pretty good about that. Any filler they have, they put on Dark, and even Dark still, moves some storylines along. So I love that about AEW. It's just you have to watch every segment. You can't flip to NXT. You can't flip to whatever other show. You need to watch even the promos. Like, you have to see what's going on. And the next promo is, when we get to that, I love the next promo so much.
Yeah, I mean, especially because, like we were talking with that Moxley promo, if you had switched to the other channel, the Moxley promo was like 30, 40 seconds at most. So you miss an entire promo for just, in less than a minute.
Yeah, and it was an important promo too.
Right. And then, so after this, we have Brit Baker. She sends a note up to Tony that she has something to say. She has a mic and she says, I want to address something quickly. I see that Big Swole is in the women's tag match, but I also know that she wants a shot at Brit Baker. And she says, well, I'm going to give you a shot, but only after you beat an opponent of my choice. So I'm curious who that's going to be.
We don't deserve Brit Baker. She is by far one of the best female, not even wrestling, like her being in a wheelchair for the past, I think it's 4 weeks now, has been better than watching her wrestle. The dumpster a few weeks ago was amazing. Her role, I just love her Rolls Royce. I want to see Big Swole get her hands on her though. Like, as much as I love Brit Baker, I cannot wait to see her just get thrown around the ring by Big Swole. Yeah,
so I'm curious who the mystery opponent is going to be. Is Rebel going to get back into the ring? Is that why she's there?
Yeah, I imagine it's going to be Rebel. I don't see anyone really wanting to work with Brit Baker just from a kayfabe standpoint. Like, nobody likes her.
Right.
Like, Tony even's like, I don't really like her. Like, I can't stand her. I can't see anybody doing her dirty work other than Rebel.
Then we move on. We have a short video package of Demonte talking about how she's unsigned and that her having a chance to face the women's champion, even in a non-title match, that winning would send her right to the top and that she has nothing to lose. And then we go on to the match of Demonte versus Hikaru Shida. This is a non-title match. Shida offers a handshake before the match. Demonte just pie faces her. And then they actually go back and forth. Shida lays in some wicked strikes here. Those are really what I want to start seeing out of Shida, throwing those hands, because Demonte did it right back. On the outside, Shida drapes Demonte over the barricade, gives her the running rising knee. They get into a fist fight, which was awesome. But there were some little screw-ups here and there. They had a roll-up exchange where they ended up rolling into the ropes, which I'm guessing was not supposed to happen. That kind of took their momentum away for a second. They kind of locked up a little bit into like a suplex, so you could tell that they're kind of talking it out quickly. Demonte hits a wheelbarrow stunner for a 2 count. Eventually, Hikaru Shida hits a delayed Falcon Arrow for a 2 count and then hits the running knee to pick up the win. I thought this match was all right. The strikes from both of the women were good because both of them just kind of threw hands here. Demonte last week with Ivelisse, we saw that both of them just let them fly. So I was kind of happy to see somebody who was in there with Shida willing to take a lot of Shida's strikes because she likes to lay them in too. And I want to see more of that type of brawling style from the women when their strikes tend to not look very good and tends to have a lot of space.
Yeah, this was a very a physical match. It was a little awkward, a little sloppy for some of it. But I mean, it wasn't supposed to be anything amazing. I think it was just to show how she can hang with the champion, and she did. I think both competitors came out looking good in this match. Like, I never felt for a second Diamante was going to win, but at least she comes out for next week's women's tag tournament looking a little bit stronger than she did.
Yeah, I think Ivelisse probably would have had a better match with Hikaru Shida, and I'm actually kind of looking forward to a Ivelisse Hikaru Shida match because that could be awesome. But Demonte was fine here. Hopefully, I don't know if Demonte or Ivelisse are signed. Demonte here said that she wasn't. I don't know if that's kayfabe or not, but at least Evilise should be signed, if not both of them, because they're both kind of like scrappers, and I would love to see that kind of brought into the women's division.
After the match last week, I want to see them and I still want to see both of them more. I want to see more of Shida. Like, I don't know much about her. I don't know if was she in Japan before this?
Yes.
Okay. So I know like nothing about her. So every time I see her do something like being such a strong striker, I'm like, ooh, she has some really solid moves. Like, she's really crisp.
Yeah.
So I just want to see her just, maybe not necessarily a squash match, but I just want to see her just dominate someone. Just like completely. She had a good match with Nyla Rose.
She had a good match with Penelope Ford.
Match. She did have a good match with Penelope Ford. I forgot all about that.
Yeah, that was a really good match.
So I just want to see more of her. Like, I knew about almost most of the women coming into AEW. She's one of the few that I don't know anything about. I just want to see her displayed more in a prominent role, I guess. Yeah. And hopefully next week with the tag tournament they do that.
Yeah, they definitely need. Yeah, is she in the tag tournament?
I'm assuming they are. I don't think they have many female tag teams, so I'm assuming they're just gonna put a few people together just to see.
Yeah.
Because I think what happens is all the women pick a color, and I think they talk about this next. Yeah. And their team was someone at random, so I'm assuming she'll have some partner.
Yeah. So it would be good to see more Shida, and my dog is going crazy. I'd like to see them do some more video packages with her to build up her character and whatnot. I see her. I follow her on Twitter and whatnot, and her social media game is great. But they need to incorporate more into the character on TV so we can know more about her. Especially because she's all in with All Elite Wrestling, because she has signed like a 3-year contract and moved to the United States for AEW. So.
Oh yeah, if you have someone making that big of a commitment, you definitely want to try and display them as much as possible.
Yeah, and then we go into they cover the women's tournament, which we just talked about. That everybody draws a color, and each person who has the same color gets teamed up at random. We go backstage and we have Nyla Rose with Vickie Guerrero. They don't really say much, but Nyla picks her color, and it is purple. And was that Dasha who was the interviewer? I think it was Dasha. She says, "Hey,
the interviewer, yeah.
Somebody already picked that color," and out comes the former Cameron.
I was excited to see her.
Is it Arlen Andrew? So she is Nyla Rose's partner. She is back. I don't really know how that's going to go. One, I was not watching WWE at the time she was there. And two, she hasn't wrestled since she left the WWE, according to CageMatch.com or whatever.
So, I like seeing they got to bring some people in if they're going to do this tag team. So I'm okay with. Yeah. I like Cameron. I think she's fine enough. I think it's going to be more of Nyla Rose destroys her. That's what I think is going to happen. I think no matter what, she's going to take the loss, and Nyla Rose is just going to absolutely destroy Cameron.
Yep. Then we have MJF's State of the Industry. I don't know how much was shown on TV. Did you guys get a picture-in-picture when he was coming out?
So I watch on the TNT app, so no, unfortunately we don't get picture-in-picture on that.
Okay, so he comes out of his dressing room. It is hilarious because Wardlow knocks on his dressing room door. He comes out. There's a whole bunch of campaign-like posters with his face on it on the wall. He walks up and he snaps his fingers at this guy, and the dude sticks a piece of gum in his mouth. And then he keeps going down, and he puts his palms out, and another guy puts hand sanitizer in them. They finally get out onto the stage, and he's doing the presidential wave, just a turn of the wrist wave. He walks down in the crowd. There's a lady carrying a fake baby. He kisses the baby on the head, and as soon as he turns away, he puts his hand back. A guy pulls out of his coat a little bottle of mouthwash, so he rinses with mouthwash after kissing the baby. He's got a guy who's wearing like an MJF 2020 button and shaking his hands and giving him like the huge fake smile. That was pretty funny. And then finally we get to the promo here, and it was a very long promo. So if you have not seen it, it's up on the YouTube channel for AEW. It's worth just watching. But the gist of it is he is planning on being the face of AEW for the next 25 years. He says that Jon Moxley's title reign is a disappointment and that MJF is a greater ratings draw than Jon Moxley. So he's announcing his candidacy for the AEW championship to face Jon Moxley at All Out. But this promo was pretty long, like I said, but that kind of is the summary of it, and I thought it was hilarious. And there were a lot of insider references here and there. I don't know about you. I know it can turn off a lot of people if they use a lot of these insider references, but I always find them entertaining.
I actually wrote down as soon as I was done that the State of the Union was goofy, meta, unnecessarily long, and the best thing I've seen in wrestling in a long time. Like, for everything that you might not like about this, take the time on YouTube. I think it's about 6 minutes long if you like ignore some of the kissing the baby and like the beginning part. I would say watch it. MJF has timing that I don't think there's another wrestler right now alive that has the timing he does for delivery. He makes you believe, even if you don't believe what he's saying, he makes you believe it just on how he delivers his words and how he personally believes this.
Yeah, his delivery was perfect. I have no idea how he managed to spit out that entire promo, because I didn't see him really look down at the paper that was on the podium. He didn't have like a teleprompter or anything. That is a long promo to spit out with not having like cue cards or something, or he's just really good, or he had an in-ear. I didn't notice, but he spit out that promo either off the top of his head or was very good at making it look like it was off the top of his head.
I came out thinking that was something that he may have had a huge hand in working with. So maybe a lot of it was his words edited. There's two lines that I loved. In the beginning, before he really starts, there's a female with him that I didn't recognize, but he says, give us a little smile. You look so much prettier when you do that. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, that's such a heel thing to say to a woman right now. Like, that's just the perfect, like, arrogant, cocky thing to say. And then he goes, I forgot exactly how he said it, but he talks about how all you see in these matches are flipping, flopping, flying, and almost dying.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, that's such a fun catchphrase. I hope he uses that more.
He also said something along the lines of Jon Moxley pretending to be somebody else, and that's the stone cold truth.
Oh yeah, cosplay. Yeah, he was talking about him cosplaying. That was great. He did a few too many like insider Titan references, but I was like, that sounds like what he would do. Like, that's what I believe the MJF character would do. So I was fine with that. What was it? My talent outweighs your tenure. That was a good soundbite. I really like. There's so much to love about this. Like, even if you're like 6 minutes is long for a promo of him just looking in the camera and talking, it looks that way on paper. It's a really brisk 6 minutes, though. Yes. You're going to enjoy, if you like wrestling in any way, you're going to enjoy this.
All right. They go on to talk about what's happening next week, but we'll talk about it at the end of the show here. We go next. We have the Darby Allin and Jon Moxley versus Ricky Starks and Brian Cage in a tornado tag, no DQ. Darby's music plays, but Darby Allin does not come out. He is kind of a no-show at this point, and Moxley comes out to his music. He is standing in the ring by himself. Backstage, it cuts to Taz and Brian Cage and Ricky Starks, and Taz is like, "Where's Darby? Where's Darby? Did he leave you all alone. And then basically Taz just talks up Brian Cage for a bit. And then Ricky Starks talks up himself for quite a bit. And then they head on through the tunnel, and they're standing just past the entrance of the tunnel, and out of the skies comes flying a Darby Allin coffin drop onto both Cage and Ricky Starks. And that kind of starts off the whole thing. They just kind of brawl on the outside for a little bit. You see Aubrey like yelling at them to try to get at least 2 guys in the ring so she can start the match. The match doesn't even start until the first commercial happens. So they finally get to ring the bell during the commercial. They pull out the plunder. We have mostly trash cans. What do we see the most of? And then we get some chairs once in a while here. And then basically this was a back and forth brawl for the most part. And then we go towards the end of the match. Moxley gets hit with a double Alabama slam on a trash can that he manages to recover. He kicks out of 2 there. And then Moxley and Darby Allin hit a coffin drop paradigm shift combo on Brian Cage. Brian Cage kicks out, and Brian rolls out of the ring, and Darby Allin also goes out of the ring to grab from underneath the ring a skateboard with thumbtacks in it, and he pops up onto the apron. I like how they did this because Brian Cage was going to get in the ring to try to save Ricky Starks, but Moxley flies in and puts on an armbar on him, so he can't get in. Darby Allin hits Ricky Starks with the skateboard. He goes up top and then does a drop in right on Ricky Starks' back with the tacks. He is bleeding like crazy from the back, and he gets pinned. Darby Allin gets the pin there. I'm guessing this might have come out of last week. Ricky Starks was a little rough clocking Darby Allin from behind, so I'm curious if that after that segment they were backstage and Ricky's like, dude, I'm so sorry I hit you that hard. How can I make this right? And Allen's like, next week you're gonna take a skateboard with tacks to the back. He's like, deal.
There is not enough money in the world for me to ever let someone jump off the top rope and land on my back with a skateboard with thumbtacks on it. I don't know who came up with that. I don't know who was like, it'd be really cool. Let's put some thumbtacks on this thing.
Well, that's not the first time Darby Allin has done it.
Is it not? I've never seen that before.
He did it at the first Double or Nothing during the Cracker Barrel
I remember them using those. Okay. Were there thumbtacks on that?
Yes.
Okay. I don't remember. I remember that match. I remember being like, I remember hearing a Cracker Barrel match like, this sounds like something stupid, but it really wasn't. That was a fun match. But
he did
was it Joey Janela?
He did it to the back of Joey Janela.
Okay. I don't remember that being thumbtacks. Either way, I was so excited to see that, and that was just, the paradigm shift coffin drop was one of the cooler double team moves, and I don't feel like because of the craziness of this match that registered to me much after the match was over. And that was just such a cool looking move too.
Yeah, I think it would have looked cooler. Darby probably jumped out a little too far. So basically it was his tailbone that kind of grazed Brian Cage. I think if he went shorter and Moxley waited longer for Darby to land harder on Brian Cage's back and then did the paradigm shift, I think it would have looked cooler. It might have registered more. Because I didn't really register it either when I was watching it. I'm like, he just kind of slid off Brian Cage's back instead of kind of like squarely landing on him.
2 things I noticed. Moxley does a really good pile driver. Like, it was, again, just not something you think about at the end of the match. When I rewatched it, he hits a really beautiful looking pile driver.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. He gave the spike pile driver to Brian Cage.
Yeah, and it was, again, in this kind of match, you don't, always you remember those moves, but like watching it back, I was like, that looks beautiful. And then I was talking about in the beginning, Taz as a manager on commentary, I love just like the franticness of him, like trying to call a match while like trying to shout out instructions at these guys. It was so good. It reminded me of Heenan when he was doing the 92 Rumble when Flair was in it. I had such like flashbacks to that.
Yeah, the after the coffin drop paradigm shift combo, Taz is freaking out. Tony's like, "Dude, your guy almost got pinned." And he's like, "I know, Tony, I know."
Taz is great on commentary. I really wait. I don't want anything to happen to Excalibur, but if Taz was the third man, I'd be perfectly fine with that.
Yeah, I mean, Taz is on commentary over on Dark all the time. But I've mentioned this tons of times. They have such a deep talent pool that they can pull commentators for. So if like somebody can't make it, they always have somebody. They have Taz as backup. They have Jericho as backup. They have Colt Cabana as backup. They have a lot of backup there that they can always pull for somebody.
Oh yeah, and then even like there's guys that I would just like to see one off do it. Like I would love to see like Orange Cassidy do commentary, but actually like say something like maybe every 3 or 4 minutes.
And even Dustin Rhodes, when he was on commentary on Dark, he was really good. Like he just sounded like he was having fun. Very similar to Tony Schiavone type of commentating. After the match was over and Moxley and Allin have won, they have a bit of a stare down. And Allin wants Moxley's title, and it is announced that he is going to be getting a shot at Moxley's title next week. He is the number 5th ranked, and I had to look up. I'm like, okay, why are they skipping so far down? And it's because the rank 2, 3, and 4 have all recently lost to Moxley, so it would make sense that they go to number 5, even though he has beaten. Was that for the title? He had a title match with Darby Allin, right?
No, I think Darby Allin's match. Darby Allin had a match with Jericho, though, didn't he? I think Darby Allin's title match was with Jericho.
Okay, because they did have a one-on-one match though at some point, right? Where he hit him with the crazy paradigm shift off the second rope. Remember?
No, I do remember that. Yes.
Yeah, but that might have been before Moxley had the title.
Yeah, I believe that. One thing I'm thinking, this is way too early for Darby Allin to have Darby Allin versus Moxley for the title. This should be a match that you build up to for a while. This should be a crazy hardcore match. Like this isn't something that should be on a already stacked card.
Yeah, it does feel a little kind of rushed for some reason. I don't know why they wouldn't just hold it off. It seems like
maybe they don't have plans for them in the future. Maybe that's why they're just giving it to us. But I really hope they do.
Yeah, like it seems like on the fly booking here, because it would make more sense that they would announce it next week for the 12th, or even the week after that. That'd be getting a little close to All Out. But it makes no sense that they would just like book it in that way as well. Like, it made no sense that they would book it immediately after that match when, like, why would the guys know to do a stare down or anything like that to hype up a title match only to have it be announced that it's happening next week? It would make way more sense if Darby Allin, stared down Moxley at the end of the show, and then next week they address it and then set up a match either for the following week or the week after that. That would make way more sense than what they did.
And commentator even, I don't remember if it was Shivani or JR, but they even mentioned that, like, these guys don't even know they're facing each other next week.
Right.
I'm like, then why are they acting like this? Like, they were tag team partners who just won. There's no reason for them to have much of an issue right now other than, like, I would like your championship, but that's not how you act to someone who you're like, hey, can I have a title shot? No? Okay, I'm going to just stare down at you for the rest of the evening. Like, and next week is just so stacked, too. I don't think you need that match.
Right.
Like, and the 12th is stacked, too.
Yeah, so it makes sense to put it on the 19th because that's still 2.5 weeks away from All Out. So that would be the time to do it if you don't have plans on going to a Moxley Darby Allin match after All Out, going into the winter or going into the fall.
And I don't know if you read this. I just read this a day or two ago. There's gonna be a new TNT title belt debuted on the 12th too, which I'm excited for.
Yeah, the finished one.
Which I didn't even know, like, I think it looks fine the way it is. Like, I'm glad there's a better one coming, but like, I'm okay with the one they have now.
It's the same
I think it looks
design.
pretty.
It's just they put the the gold plating on the AEW logo and put some gold
Gotcha.
plating here and there. So it's the same like actual stamped everything. So the solid piece is the same. It's just they're adding just plating to make it a little bit more contrast instead of like the flat aluminum silver that it looks like now.
I like that title. I think it looks different, and it doesn't look like something I could see in a store. So I like that about it.
Yeah, and then also we have for next week, it is announced that we're going to have Cody and Matt Cardona versus Reynolds and Silver from the Dark Order. Those are the guys who attacked them at the end of Cody's match. Then we're going to have some more MJF. And then we're going to have, which I think is going to be a total cluster and a half, I'm hoping it's short, a 12-man tag. We're going to have FTR, the Elite, versus Dark Order of Brodie Lee, Colt Cabana, Stu Grayson, Uno, I think number 5, and I don't know who
a few other people. Like, who knows at this point?
And then we're having the debate with Cassidy and Jericho. So we got 3 matches already announced. I have not popped over onto their Twitter to see if they have any more announced. But that is what we have for next week. So that should be a pretty interesting one.
Yeah, obviously Cody and Mark Cardona's is the natural progression of that. You get to see the former Zack Ryder wrestle in a tag team match, kind of get his feet wet in a new style of wrestling. MJF with another State of the Union. As much as I love this one, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because
I assume somebody's going to crash the party.
Oh, you don't even think there's going to be something? You think like something's going to happen before it even starts?
I think so, yeah.
That would make sense because I can't see another 6 minutes happening. So yeah, that makes sense. He, goes for another one. The debate, I can't see that being bad. Like Jericho, it's hard for Jericho and Orange Cassidy to be in something bad. Like it might not be the greatest in the world, but they don't do bad. Like they're just charismatic enough to carry almost anything. So I'm very excited to see what that's going to be. I'm excited to see who the moderator is. The 12-man, I don't see how this is going to be a coherent match at all. I just see this being just a lot to take in. I think I see this being a match that maybe given enough time is going to be like a classic, but I just see that being just such a cluster. Right.
It has the potential to be great, but it also has the potential to be an utter failure.
And I don't know if it's going to be I don't know if you can have this much talent in a ring and be a failure, but I don't think you can have this much talent in the ring and have anything that makes sense. Like if they just go for a brawl where everyone's just like showcased a little bit, that might work. But again, you're going to have 10 guys just on the apron at almost all times. Like that's just aesthetically not a great look, I don't think.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. I'm guessing this is going to be, just a brawl and a half. Just quickly, we'll touch on some ratings here. AEW stayed up, but they were down from last week. They went down to 773,000 from the 845 of last week. An interesting thing to note, though, the combined viewership of AEW and NXT beat the third hour of this week's Raw.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we know all the wrestling fans are there. So it is very interesting that we had just under 1.5 million people combined between NXT and AEW, and Raw was under that.
So I did hear that Vince got asked that on the earnings call earlier this afternoon.
And he BS'd his way through it, yeah.
And he was like, it's because they're new, and can you just admit that? Like, obviously, you can't say AEW is better than us right now, but like, he's just the master, being like, yeah, it's fine, let's ignore it. And there's a reason I haven't watched, and I don't think you have either, a WWE show in God knows how long.
Yeah, I haven't watched since the second Saudi show. I canceled it when they decided that after a journalist gets killed in a consulate, it's a good idea to go. Yeah, so that's when I canceled.
But Undertaker versus Goldberg has to happen.
Right.
Where else can that match happen besides Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, the only WWE match I have watched in the past 2 years was the Boneyard match. That was it.
I mean, if there's one match you're going to watch, that's probably going to be the one.
Yeah. So you got anything else to add before we wrap it up here?
No, the only thing I hope they do a little bit less is I don't like when they talk about ratings. Jericho's been doing it a lot, and MJF's been doing it. It kind of takes me out of the moment when they talk about ratings. I don't know about you, but yeah, that's a little too meta for me.
That definitely goes beyond the length of meta that I'm okay with. Like I was totally fine with the Brodie Lee doing Vince McMahonisms. I'm fine.
That was funny.
I'm fine if they want to take shots, at WWE, knock yourself out. But once you get into ratings, then it's like, okay, that completely pulls me out of the story. It's fine that we have the competition, that you're trying to be better than your competition, because I don't know why anybody debates this, that WWE is their competition, because they want to be big, but when they start bringing in TV ratings and like it's like this is pushing it a little farther than makes sense for why they would even be saying that stuff in a kayfabe sense,
right? Like especially like MJF got a little, and again I give him so much of a pass because everything was good, but I was like, I don't care that you get better ratings. Like, you can say you're a better wrestler than Jon Moxley, you can say you're fresher, that's all good points. When you start to be like, well, people like to watch me in ratings more, I'm like, I don't care. Yeah, that's the one part I don't care about, dude.
But no, other than that, we don't have buy rates to go off of, though, so we'll see.
Do they? Well, I don't think MJF has really been a part of a major I guess his Cody match would be the only major pay-per-view he's been a part of, right?
Right.
I think it's the only one you could even point at that he had a match that people might pay for. But even then, I think Jon Moxley's been, since the first pay-per-view, in either the main event or the biggest match of each night, whether it's his match with Omega.
Yep.
I think from Omega forward, he did have the Pac match, the one that Omega couldn't make it to, that they had to change Pac for.
Yeah, for All Out last year.
That was such a good match too. I can't wait for. Let's just last thing. I can't wait for Pac to come back. I know he can't because of COVID, and that sucks. But I miss Pac.
Yeah, I do too. I'm kind of hoping that they make a faction and pull in Butcher and Blade and have the Death Triangle plus Butcher and Blade, and they can name it something crazy.
Yeah, we were talking about like the Death Pentagon or something. Like we were trying to figure out our geometry shapes. Be like, all right, how many? If there's 5 of them, it's not an octagon. That's 8. I think it's a pentagon.
They're a squad at this point. They can just be the Death Squad.
That would make a cool shirt. That would make a cool Hot Topic shirt.
Yeah, but I think that might have some political connotations going back to the 80s that we might not want to bring up.
Yeah, I think that's the last thing we need to do is try and get anything like that involved in a silly wrestling show.
All right, so thanks a lot, Justin, for filling in for Dustin. No, I'm not calling him the wrong name. It is Justin. So I believe you'll be here next week as well.
I will be. This was a blast. I love doing this. I will definitely be here next week, and then any other week Dustin can't do this. I will be more than happy to fill in his shoes.
All right. So for those of you who have complaints about Justin, you can send me an email, eric@thatswrestling.com. Or for any comments, questions, feedback, all that fun stuff, you can send eric@thatswrestling.com. Head over to the YouTube channel and give us a subscribe if you're listening to this as a podcast. And of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can grab this as a podcast to listen to it later on your way to work or all that fun stuff. Head over to iTunes and drop us a review. It really helps out in the search results. We have a Discord that covers all my other projects. Plus we have a pretty active wrestling sub channel in there as well, and I'm still looking for some other co-hosts to join me for New Japan stuff, so you can shoot me an email, eric@thatswrestling.com, or contact me through Discord and all that fun stuff. So for Justin, my name is Eric LaRoche, and I will see you next time on That's Wrestling. See you later, guys.